So last week or the week before, one of my kids was like, "Dad, I really want to play the new God of War. It looks incredible."
That came out Tuesday, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's sending me videos like, "Oh my God, look at this, look at that, look at this," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's PlayStation only. It's a Sony thing, right? So like, we would need a PlayStation 5, which no,
Well, you
like
can't even get them.
we're in the Xbox universe.
Yeah.
So, as luck would have it, I'm at a 60th birthday party on Saturday, and there's family in from out of town, and the husband and wife, what do you guys, was making small talk. What do you guys do? I work. I'm a financial advisor. Blah 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 for this company. Okay, cool. The wife, I work at PlayStation. So I'm like, oh, so you're the reason no one can get a PS5. Thinking I'm being like Mr. Funny Man, and there was nothing funny to her about that. Like the look on her
got
face.
upset at you.
Like she just like there was no laughing. Like everybody else was kind of chuckling because I presented it in a way that was like,
Yeah.
I'm being wry, but come to find out, she's a second in command at PlayStation. Like it's her. And
Great.
then,
Now we're never gonna. Now Steve PlayStation is never gonna work with us.
Never gonna work with us.
Fantastic, Steve PlayStation. If you're listening, I formally apologize for Matt's nature and his rudeness at that party.
He has been canceled.
Matt canceled by Steve PlayStation.
And so because later on I was like, oh, I think I really kind of like it didn't go over well, and the guy I was talking to was like, well, she's second in command, like it's her and this other guy that's above her, and then they report to Japan, to Sony, and
Wow.
that's that.
So she's like Sony USA.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh,
Whoops.
that problem of sourcing their tech probably keeps her up at
Yeah,
night.
it's probably that's a real issue for her. For you, you just can't get a PlayStation.
Here comes
for her.
Mr. Chucklehead coming in, but
That happens.
We had a good time. It was fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's fine.
Yeah, and I'm sure Sony's never going to call us, so we don't have
Sony-
to. We really don't have to worry about that one. I think not only that ship isn't going to sail because it's never going to be boarded. So
It's never been made. The ship doesn't
it's
even
not even
exist.
built.
Yeah,
there's no
there's
keel.
ship.
Nothing.
And that's we don't do well in that big sticky bureaucratic space anyways.
It's hard because I'm trying to get more reviews for us on Clutch, and one of our clients, and I'm gonna butcher it from a paraphrasing standpoint. The last line was of the review that Clutch does was, what advice would you give to anyone looking to work with JXM? And Dan said, trust them, stay in your lane, get out of their way, and let them do their job. And that's, for a lot of good reasons, that, and maybe some not so great reasons, that's a tough row to hoe in larger organizations because there's a lot of stakeholders, there's a lot on the line. And not that in a smaller company there's not a lot on the line, because the livelihoods and jobs are on the line in the work we do, no matter what. There's performance that's involved, there's actual ROI that's involved, there's profitability involved. So when I look at who we work with, it's not death, but it's certainly, the idea of like, oh, it's not life and death. It is life though, because the work that is done to help organizations grow and sustain themselves is fundamentally intertwined into the compensation structures of the people that choose to work with us. So it is life and death. So I understand why, a new agency, marketing consultancy comes in, and you got a little, the bureaucracy is there, and eventually it will just wear them down.
Yeah.
And we're just not structured for. I wish I wish, if Reginald Coca-Cola called up and we could work with him, that would be really nice. But I also know that we would fail so dramatically because
I think Reginald Coca-Cola is on Steve PlayStation's yacht right now.
oh yeah, they're all
They're doing some yachting.
yeah, they're all with Paul Pepsi, and I like the alliteration of that
Paul
guy.
Pepsi.
I'm Paul Pepsi.
There's really no need to give context to the story, but Jim and I have this running joke of like these big conglomerate brands are founded. Each one has a founder and they have a name.
Yeah.
Like it started with Bob NASA, which grew into apparently Paul Pepsi and Reginald Coca-Cola.
We need to do a better job because all of the ones are masculine. So we need to do a better job of kind of bringing a bit more diversification into our name joke. So I'll work on that because I always, again, that's I'm a guy, so that's where my brain goes there. You know?
Yeah, but I had a point to make, but then you said Reginald Coca-Cola.
I dropped such a brilliant thing that it completely shattered. We were talking about bureaucracy and why we suck at it, and how we just won't do a good job.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of I think agencies, and I just saw this yesterday, that the employee shortage that's happening in our industry is causing agencies to suddenly realize that they don't need to pitch for every piece of business that comes across their desk. Because lo and behold, there are human resources required to put a pitch together.
Wait a second. You actually need to expend time and money in order to pitch something?
Yeah.
Wow.
And if that's what's being discussed in 2022, I'm wondering if a lot of these agencies don't even think about good service standards for an account. And that's not me throwing shade at the industry. That's me saying, like, we've been in some pretty major bureaucracies and it's chiseled away at our souls to the point that we're making a conscious choice to not go this route anymore.
Yeah, move on.
I think some people just say, let's take it on and
see what happens.
It chisels them down and they just won't let it go until they get fired.
Or they can't let it go because, on high.
There's it represents 79% of their business.
Either that or they're a part of a holding company or whatever. But, you actually said it a day or two ago when we were just rapping on the phone that when we do bring on a new account, we do not onboard another one until the new one is successfully onboarded. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, what does successfully onboarded mean? Well, since there is no B team, you don't talk with you and me and then we disappear. And there are other partners here as well that our clients work with, but every account must have a partner connected to it. That's a rule. It has to be that way. So it limits our growth, yes, but it also ensures that we, in bringing on the bright new piece of business, that's a dog going through the office area. Wow, listen to that. That's amazing. That just happened.
This is a pet friendly place.
It's a pet friendly. To each their own. I'm not a. I love Sam, my dog who passed away, but other than that, I'm not really a dog person.
I love my dogs.
Yeah,
they would come with me if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, there'd be like a fight.
Then they all start shouting back and forth.
Yeah, they start. Yeah, they're just being just talking to each other. But anyways, where was I? I don't even remember now.
You were talking about.
Oh, the onboarding thing.
Yeah, the onboarding.
And you spend so much time focusing on the new thing that you forget that you have old friends that have been there with you for a long time that deserve an excellent service level that is not hindered by the fact that your company is growing. And I say that not from a standpoint of the hubris of that never happening, because that has happened to us where we did grow too fast. And we actually had clients go, what the hell's going on over there? And that was terrible. Yeah. It was an awful feeling to realize that our own desire for growth and success was negatively impacting people that had supported our business in the beginning. And when we started reframing the company, starting with the idea of moving on from our past name, James and Matthew, and rebranding, one of the biggest and important moves we made is we looked at that piece and said, that's not going to happen again. I would rather not get another piece of new business than have someone come to me and say, you're not as good as you once were. And not because, and for me to know why.
Yeah.
Right now, if they do that, I don't know why, and there's something that's different.
Yeah.
But when someone says, you kind of suck a little bit.
Something's amiss.
And you know why it's amiss.
Yeah. And that's so interesting because it's such on the creative side, it's a suggestion often. It's not like, hey, the creative is sucking, what's going on? It's like, has Matt been involved in the planning of this? And that's the thing that I hate.
I remember that. I remember that exact question. It was Jenny that said it.
Right.
This does not feel like Matt was involved.
Yeah.
And she was right.
Right.
You weren't.
Right. And I think about that time frame. So we kind of in the world of business, our scale that we grew to was insignificant, right? 17 people, but we did it rapidly.
It was within a year.
And so it was a bit of a blitz. I remember a couple things about that time. I remember that it was not a fun time. I remember that, and when I look back on it, there's moments of fondness, but there's also missing important milestones in my children's lives because we were traveling a lot to keep up with these bureaucracies that we were entertaining, working with. I was in evening meetings with 2 different therapists.
I forgot how much therapy you were going through. And,
Yeah.
and obviously therapy is a great thing. Went through it myself, and that's not a negative. But
it had nothing to do with home my past. It was all just keep up with what's going on.
Yeah.
I had one that was like a social type of therapist that would help with, the reckoning that comes when you're that busy and you have a family, and it could be just emotional on you or it could be emotional on them. And we talked a lot about that. And then I had another one that was just focused on business, just, reminding me to find a balance, reminding me, the phrase performance identity that you and I throw around a lot, that came from him, and so, I look back on that time and I go, I don't know that was, it happened because it happened, but like, I don't know if I ever want to go back to that unless there's a more gradual growth curve for us. I mean, you can't always plan it. You get a couple of big opportunities. It would behoove you to research them, and then it might behoove you to take them, right? But I like that we're being very, very, very intentional and selective about who we talk to.
That's just it. I mean, we should be turning down almost 100% of the new business opportunities that we are presented with in a given year. And I'm sure there are people out there that will going to say, well, that sounds absolutely, why would you do that? It's because we are looking for a needle and a needle and a needle and a needle in a haystack. We don't want relationships that are going to last a year. Played that game, did that. In fact, the ones that have lasted a short period of time, I am fundamentally convinced if we had those opportunities now, we would have turned them down, or they would be long-term clients at this point because of the nature in which they were held. There's one that I think we would have turned down, and there's one that I'm almost positive, and not to I'm not disparaging the folks that, the team that handled it at that time. They did the best they could. But if I was managing the client service aspect of it and you were involved in the creative, they would still be clients to this day. And I am fundamentally convinced of that.
Yeah.
And ultimately it came down to, our collective failures.
Yep.
Every failure is ours.
Yep.
You don't get to make the decision and shirk the responsibility. It doesn't work that way.
But it's an interesting just connection between that lifestyle that we were both leading and the perception of wealth versus actual wealth. And I don't just mean dollars, I mean time. And
like almost like being as busy as you were made you wealthy. Was that what you mean?
Or just that, like that outward, like, I think we both had our own reasons to be as busy. Busy is a choice. I'm just going to say that. Busy is a choice, right? And we made that choice in a very hardcore manner. I mean,
oh yeah.
If someone, I'll just say it, and because I have a lot of respect for this organization, but a credit union conference asked me to come to Vegas and speak over the summer about branding and all this other stuff. And Lori was going to come with me and also do some media workshops. And Lori is on a maternity leave right now.
Back within the next week or two, luckily, for the people that have to deal with me instead of Lori.
And that, of course, puts her over the summer as being in a category of very pregnant.
Yeah.
And Lori, if you know Lori, she's badass and will do anything for the company. And, I called her and I said, we're going to do this thing in July. And, your due date is in September or whatever. Are you sure you want to even get on a plane? And if you do want to get on a plane, do you really want to go to 110 degree Las Vegas and be there? And she was like, well, I mean, I'll do whatever it takes. And I was like, all right. So
that's always her answer though.
Yeah. I emailed this guy back and said, hey, sorry, but we're out. I appreciate the offer. I hope we stay in touch. But we're out.
Can't do it.
And I look at some of the things that we would do in 2016, 2017. We flew to Madison, Wisconsin, just so I could be on a podcast and we could meet a few friends. Like we went out to dinner with some people that we know and love out there. But like,
that's a lot to do.
Ask me today if I would uproot, because what we learned, and again, all this was valuable from a learning perspective, is that uprooting yourself and traveling sometimes means that you're not as effective as you could be if you were in your usual routine and all your habits were in order. Mm.